it will not work. If the U.S. is to prevent the continuing horrendous decline of our society and our economy, we must establish a set of rules that restores the American dream. Justice for our citizens. In the last 20 years, tens of millions of law-abiding American men, women, and children have been ravaged, losing their self-respect, their jobs, their incomes, their homes, their families, their health, and even their lives. Inner cities have been decimated, creating an environment of frustration, rebellion, and crime. Our infrastructure of schools, roads, bridges, sewers, and prisons are crumbling. These are the results of free and expanded trade, and the future looks bleak, not only for our young people, but also for the elderly. You see their nest eggs eroding, the promised benefits taken away at a time when they no longer have the energy or potential to restore them. This is the new American nightmare. Many things have contributed to our nation's dilemma, but one thing is certain. Protectionism is not one of them. Instead, it occurred during the greatest liberalization and expansion of trade in history. And I say to you that change will not come from the top. It will require a grassroots uprising from we, the people, and that means all of us. We can no longer do business as usual and expect to change course. The major problem is the lack of leadership from our government. The will to stop our mad rush to inevitable economic suicide must begin with each one of us. Since the signing of our Declaration of Independence, our heritage has always been never to cower to any country or bend to any threat. It's in our American spirit, the proud part of our heritage, to stand erect, proud and unafraid, to think and act for ourselves, to enjoy the benefits of our creations, and to face the world boldly and say, this we have done. All this is what it means to be an American. Today we face the most serious financial crisis since our founding as a country. Our national debt, $16.8 trillion and rising. If you add the unfunded mandates legislated by the U.S. government for Social Security, Medicare, and government pensions, according to an article in the Wall Street Journal on November 17th of last year, Bill Archer, former chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee, stated, counting the unfunded mandates, our true debt is $86.8 trillion and growing. These monstrous deficits are historical hallmarks of rapidly declining economic and industrial power. No nation in history has endured long-term trade deficits without incurring major social, economic, and security crises, including the downfall and overthrow of governments. The U.S. cannot presume to be an exception. I agree with former Chairman of the Federal Reserve, Paul Volcker. Trade deficits are the real cause of our financial crisis. And I say to the tens of millions of American workers who've lost their jobs, their homes, their pensions, and their pride, it's not your fault. We've been lied to and betrayed. It's the U.S. tax and trade laws that deliberately discriminate against American workers and American-made products. These laws are the reason we have 22 million Americans unemployed who have given up and stopped looking. These tax and trade laws are the reason we have a staggering $16.8 trillion debt, federal debt, not counting the unfunded mandates. If these tens of millions of Americans were working, we wouldn't have a looming crisis in Social Security or Medicare. We wouldn't have a record 48 million, 1 in 6 Americans, on food stamps. This is unacceptable. If these tens of millions were working, paying federal, state, and local taxes, we wouldn't have a crisis at the local, state, and federal levels. These trade and tax laws of the recent foreign nations are now home to tens of thousands of American factories that once dotted the American landscape. The measure of a nation's economic success isn't how much it trades, but whether the wages of our workers rise each year, the standard of living of its families grows annually, and whether there are good-paying jobs there for our children and our grandchildren. It's time for the American people to stand up and speak out for common sense and restore the American dream. We the people demand today that these one-sided trade deals, when America granted unilateral concessions and got nothing in return, must end now. We the people demand all unfair, unequal, and discriminatory existing trade treaties, including GATT, NAFTA, the WTO, the Korean Free Trade Agreement, and MFN for trading status for China, be repealed now. Trade treaties must be judged not on their benefits to transnational corporations or foreign countries, but whether they benefit U.S. workers, families, and advance the economic security of the United States of America. The duty of the U.S. government is to look out first and foremost for us, the American people. We, the people, demand that the U.S. government tell China, Germany, South Korea, Japan, and the rest of the world that we will immediately put a tariff tax on any manufactured products coming into the U.S. equal to the combined tariff taxes, regulatory costs, and or duties applied to U.S. manufactured products entering their countries. If Germany adds tariff taxes, regulatory costs, and duties of $8,700 to a $30,000 imported U.S. Chevy, then I say we add the same tariff taxes, regulatory costs, and duties on their VWs imported to the U.S. Stealing our jobs through unfairly giving huge tax breaks to exports to the U.S. and then blatantly protecting their markets from American-made products must end now. We, the people, demand a return to fairness, equality, and a level playing field for the American people, not your so-called free trade. What is demanded here is that we do to tariff tax nations what they have been and are continuing to do to the U.S. now. Let me tell you what we're up against. New Hampshire's U.S. Senator Judd Gregg said, the only crisis more serious would be that Islamic extremists would get their hands on a nuclear weapon and use it against us. That's what we're up against. America, awake from this horrible nightmare. The hour is late. This crisis is real, and this crisis is upon us now. Americans are crying out for a solution. We the people demand common sense. We the people will not retreat. We the people will not surrender. We the people will not back down from these demands. My fellow patriots, today we begin our journey. Common Sense Part 2. Stand up with me and speak out. Together we can restore the American dream, balance the federal budget, and bring home billions of manufacturing jobs. Like every generation of Americans before us, we the people will fight for our families, our country, and our way of life. As Thomas Paine, who wrote Common Sense in 1776, said, "These are times that try men's souls." My fellow Americans, today, America, again, stands at a crucial and a historical crossroads. We must not and will not let the curtain close on America. Stand up. Our survival as a nation is in the balance. Today, I propose a new Republican Party based on common sense. Together we can restore the American dream, bring home millions of Reagan Democrats, independents, and union members. Together, we need to get this message out to every conservative grassroots organization throughout America. Make no mistake, this is a clarion call for action. We must act now before our government passes another one of these one-sided trade agreements to devastate our economy and our country even further. Our future, our nation's future, and our family's future are on the line. God bless you, your families, and the United States of America. Thank you.
I can see he has lost none of his passion. Let's give him another round of applause. That was great. And also, if you want a copy of the presentation, his phone number's up there. You can text him, and he'll get it right to you. So thank you very much for that. And again, good to see you still have all your passion. I also want to remind everyone to use your papers for written questions.